Today on the Ave Podcast, we're bringing out part 2 of the Bel Air review, and we're going to focus on the ladies of the show, the recreation of the character of Hilary, Ashley, and Chocolatey Aunt Viv. Plus, we dig a little into the last 2 episodes of the season, and we also dive into more topics and questions about the first season that was omitted from part 1. All right, so kick back and enjoy. South Sheriff is available wherever you listen to your podcasts like this one. Rate, review, and subscribe to my shows and my network. Leave comments as well. Plus, check out my catalog of shows at southsheriff.com. And I want to make a point right now. Hit those 5 stars if you're on Apple or Spotify. It takes less than a second to do it. It provides nothing but good vibes for me and you. Don't be a hater. Click on every one of those stars. And it goes without saying to hit that like and favorite buttons too. It takes all of 3.4 seconds of your time. All right, let's get on it. Now, before we start the show, we recorded this before the news of the reports that the Black Lives Matter founders have purchased a $6 million mansion with the donation money they received from the world in the last 1.5 years or 2 years. It's reported that they've raised over $90 million, and people are still asking where that money went. I need to dive a little deeper into this topic, and I'm probably going to get into it a little more next week, or at least for a segment. But I'll just say this. I'll say this much. I was turned off from them on last year, 2021 Martin Luther King Day last year, when they put out a video of a girl twerking all over Washington, D.C. and all the monuments all across the city. I haven't checked their IG to see they removed it from their account. Actually, wait. Nope. Still on there. It's still on there. It's actually called under artistic statement, but I thought it was beyond the wrong message to post that day or any Martin Luther King Day. So my reservation started growing from there. And, you know, I don't want to comment further, but like I said, I want to dig into this a little more. But they got a lot to answer for if the money isn't actually being used to help improve the conditions of black people. This is a terrible look for them right now. This ain't good. But you know what? Let's start the Bel Air edition of the Ave Podcast on South Sheriff Radio. Oh yes, but before I forget, let me say it for those who haven't watched the last 2 episodes of the show yet. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. All right, let's do it.
Welcome to the Ave Podcast with Cal C on South Sheriff Radio.
Welcome to the Ave Podcast. As promised, you know, we're here to do part 2 of the Bel Air review. Joining me is you know, the past guest that we had before, the South Sheriff family member Headley. Now, I know you know, we just talked about this. You caught up on, or we're both caught up now on the Bel Air show. So I guess I could ask you, like what were your thoughts on the last 2 episodes before I get to my questions here?
Well, first off, let me do a shout out to Mikey, because I know Mikey was like, yo, I don't know how you guys did a recap and not include me in it.
Oh, shit, that's right. He wanted to be
so. But that's obviously after we put down the first edition. But Mikey, yo, season 2, you on this, yo. It's going to be a 3-man panel.
Oh, my gosh.
It's going to be a 3-man panel.
Oh, my God. I totally forgot he asked me to do that. Oh, my gosh. Mikey, I'm sorry.
Season 2, yo. Season 2, you're on here.
Oh my gosh. As soon as you said his name, that conversation just literally materialized right in my head like a thought bubble. Oh my God. I totally forgot about that. Keep going. Sorry, Mikey. Sorry. Keep going.
Yeah. So, 2 things. Okay, the last 2 episodes, I can tell the truth, I'm a little disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily in terms of the writing. I just felt like we unfolded too much in the first season, you know? I just felt like that some of this stuff could have been held for the second season. Some storylines could have been drawn out a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, man, we really had to have Lou come in the first season?
Yeah, you know what? And I agree with you. I like that part, but you're thinking what you're saying now, you're right. That could have waited for season 2.
Yeah.
That could have been a cliffhanger at the very least.
Yeah, I'm like, some of this stuff you could have drawn it out a little longer, because we know, we know you already teased that. So I was surprised that they teased it and like, man, he's here. I'm like, wait a second. And and me and you kind of joked about this, and we thought there was going to be. I honestly thought there was going to be an episode, just on Geoffrey, and so I was surprised when Geoffrey took a leave of absence.
Yeah, which we'll get to. I got.
Yeah. So I was a little disappointed with that, but we know this is not the end of Geoffrey.
No,
there's no way. I mean, obviously he's going to come back. They're going to reconcile, come back season 2, but I wasn't expecting that little cliffhanger. I will say, Will Smith, the character Banks, I forget his first name. Yeah, he impressed me because when he was cussing out his father, I was like, God damn. I was like, I felt it.
He dressed him down.
Oh,
though.
Man. He really did. I was like, man, I wanted to punch him in the mouth. I was like, God damn.
You're like, this kid can't be talking to me like this.
Yeah, see? Acting chops in that scene.
You know what? Two things I'll say. Number one, I thought Marlon Wayans did a good job. First of all, that was a good job in that short role. She pretty impressed with his acting.
More of a comedy and stuff like that. I was like, yo, he held it down.
Yeah, he did a good job. And secondly, I'm just thankful and happy, and not because of the recent events. I'm just happy Lou wasn't Will, wasn't like the real Will Smith. That's what I was like wondering, and then. When he turned around, I was like, okay, and not nothing to do with the slap, just because I was like, I like that the nods to the original show, but this could stand on its own right now without Will.
But I like the fact that they brought back all the anti-Vice.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
That was a nice little and cameos and stuff.
That was dope.
Obviously in a different role, but it was nice. It was nice seeing that.
It was definitely dope.
Because maybe not everybody knows the backstory. With dark skin anti-Vi and light skin anti-Vi.
Right.
People don't know that Will and dark skin anti-Vi had a fallout. So up until I think 20 years went by before they even talked.
Right.
And what I didn't realize is that dark skin anti-Vi and light skin anti-Vi never met each other either.
I know.
You would think, not because they had beef, but you would think over the years
they would have ran into each other.
They would have ran into each other or something because they played the same part. They never met each other. Yeah. I was like, wow, that's crazy.
And you know what? Props to Will for even entertaining that conversation for the reunion, because that was the one thing I remember. I mean that was last year, but I was really impressed with that, because I'm like, if you're gonna have a reunion, a 30-year reunion, how do you do that without without Aunt Viv? Like, that's, and we're gonna get to that in a second, but I'm like, that was a queen, you know what I mean? So like I like the fact that it's circled back. But yeah, I mean, she had a rough go of it after that show, man. So it's it's that black actor thing is a serious thing, man. When you're not getting your roles, it's a serious obstacle to overcome.
Yeah, she had a black eye on her, or stigma on her. Yeah. And another thing I just want to say real quick, man, I wish Will and Carlton were at each other's throat a little longer too. This love fest that they have so soon, I was like, man, we could have pushed this a little longer. That storyline too.
They could have settled it for season 2.
Yeah, I'm wondering, when is season 2 going to be about? Season 2 is almost going to be brand spanking new, because
it's you know what, they do. Yeah, you're right. They have a love for each other now, but I kind of feel like Carlton still has that, he solidified his role enough that he's a bit of a prick. So I don't know when if he flips that switch. I don't know if he will, the way he broke down at the end of season 1 there, looking for Will.
Dude, that honestly, that part really bothered me. I was like, come on, man. But you know what? As I said, yeah, you're right. I hope it goes back. I hope it's a little back and forth, like true siblings.
Yeah.
It can't be gravy the whole time.
Yeah, like a love-hate relationship kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I actually thought his acting was good. It spoke with that scene with Lisa and stuff. I just didn't expect it. I didn't expect we're gonna go all the way in so quick.
We're the same. We Martin, we here with that, because I wasn't really feeling that part either, to be honest with you. But the last episode we focused more on the men on the show, and we're still gonna talk about them a little bit, but we didn't show our love, or shed that light on the ladies of the show. So I mean, just let's get into it right now. What are your thoughts on Chocolatey Aunt Viv? That's how I
Oh,
call
I
it.
love her.
I don't call it just Aunt Viv. I call it a chocolatey Aunt Viv. That's my name for her.
I love
Chocolatey
her.
Aunt Viv.
Did you know her in any other roles before?
Yes, Inside Man. She was Denzel's girl in Inside Man. If you remember that movie.
I do remember that movie, but I do not remember her.
Yeah, watch it again. And she was hot in that movie too.
Yeah, no, I love her. I love her role. I love her. You know, she has that class and she has that kind of spike in her too at the same time, right? So I think she's playing that role nice, where she's a refined Philly John.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I love what she's doing. I didn't know her before, but I'm loving how she's portraying her part.
She's so chocolatey. She's just so chocolatey.
Yeah, she is.
She's so chocolatey.
She is.
But honestly, her role is, I think the way she plays it, and she's playing it in her own way. But I think it's similar to the first Aunt Viv, to the dark skin Aunt Viv, because to your point, like, she's regal, she's respected. She carries herself as like the queen of the house, like the glue of the home. I feel like she suppresses her talents and her career for Uncle Phil's run, but I like that they made her strong. And I'm sorry to say, I have to say this, but people may not be a fan of what I'm about to say here, but that second Aunt Viv, light skin Aunt Viv, on the original show, I thought she was just there. I'm not saying she was weak, but she was just, to me, she was just there as a character. Like, that first Aunt Viv was always more iconic to me because she was so strong. You know what I mean? Like there was something regal about her all the time. And
you feel like you when I think about scenes where she plays a strong, very opinionated type role, its earlier versions, I remember more
Absolutely.
of that than the latter ones.
Absolutely. From the speeches, of course, the iconic episode where she does the dance class, with
I was just thinking about that in my head, yo. I was just thinking about that in my head.
Well, that's iconic.
I was just thinking about that.
But she's had so much iconic moments in those first couple seasons where, like, it wasn't just, like, I felt like the other Aunt Viv was just kind of there. Like, there's no moments I really remember specifically with her being it, other than she was a replacement. But,
and you know what? It could have been the writing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It may, we can't say necessarily it's all because of her.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You felt like that she captured the scenes more with the original one.
No, for sure. And it's an interesting, concept that they made her to be someone who's still, like she was submissive in the way that she kind of like, suppressed her talents, but she still has that bite in her with the clashes with, like, obviously, the way she clashes with Hilary, but she's still someone that's fighting to kind of be herself in the space, in that space of being uber rich. You know what I mean? Like, I thought to me that was like, it was actually like a kind of like a cool dynamic that, like, she kind of like spread her wings as the season went along. You know what I mean? In terms of like, okay, like, yeah, I'm sitting here, I'm biting my lip, and it's like, nah, I ain't gonna do that anymore. I'm not comfortable. I ain't right. Like, this is how it's got to be. I don't care that you're doing this. I got to be me. Like, this ain't sitting right.
And you know what I really liked about it, because a lot of people feel like if they don't have it all put together at a certain time in life, that time has passed.
Absolutely.
So I like the fact that she got a great life from the outside looking in terms of the home, the family, dynamics, success, etc. But she still has that feeling of unfulfillment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's going after it now. Just her exploring, like, that scene with her and Uncle Phil, when she was saying that, I wish you had, pushed me and not giving up on my dreams so easily.
Mm-hmm.
And then, obviously he's going back and forth. It's like, well, you kind of ended it kind of easy for yourself too.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I just like the fact that they're showing at 40, it's not over. You can start back. Obviously this is entertainment. Like, she got this whole damn grant where she has a whole exhibit 4 seasons in. four episodes in. I mean, obviously it's not going to go like that, but I just like the fact that they portray that, like, you know what, stuff is unfulfilled. It's never too late. I can go back at this, and I think that's a lot of things. That's a lot of things that people can relate to, where they feel like they got a family and kids, they can't do everything, and that their time has passed. So I kind of like that.
Yeah,
because you don't really see that. I'm trying to think about scenarios where we've seen that before. Definitely not in the original the original comedy, and I'm not sure if we've really seen that in anything recent. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and that's a life lesson, right? Like people, there's so many scenarios in life where people park their dreams, right? Because of life sometimes, right?
Yeah,
and a lot of times, like, yeah, you're right. Like a lot of times they think it's too late to open up that garage door and back that dream back out, and people have a way of just letting that stuff go. And there's some people out here that's just like, you know what, nah, man, I still got to try. And if it pops when I'm 50, I'm cool with it, but it's like the biggest thing they always say, and we've learned this from, playing sports or whatever it is, just life itself. But like, the biggest thing is wondering if you could have, if a dream doesn't work, if a journey doesn't work, it's like, you can't say, okay, well, you know what, at least you can't say I didn't try. I know it sounds cliche, but that's a real thing, right? Like you can't, it's nothing worse than sitting there and being like, 10 years later, man, I should have been, X, Y, Z, or I could have did this. I didn't try to start that back up. You know what I mean? There's nothing worse than that. So it's a good life lesson in that respect, especially for I like that they gave that portion of that to her for real. I think that's dope.
And then I know this is for the ladies, but how Uncle Phil bowed out of the race in order to fulfill more time with his family.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, that's deep. That's deep. Like, I know the storyline was led to that because of everything that happened and finding out about Will. And then, him being running for general attorney with that, how that would have played out in season 2, that probably would have taken away from the whole family dynamics of the show, right? Because obviously we talked about how we like the fact that everybody has a bigger role than in the original comedy where it was more on Will.
Mm-hmm.
But him going there probably wouldn't have been able to fit in that same, have to have Will and him in the same basket. Probably it would have been too big of a side kind of show, right?
Right.
However, the fact that how they wrote it out and how he bowed out and put his dreams aside for the betterment for his family, saying that it was his time. Actually, it wasn't as simple as that. Obviously, Geoffrey convinced him,
right,
that he's a little bit of a selfish ass.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was a nice interpretation. How he's like, yeah, you know what, it's time for me to step back and let other people shine, and in being in a supportive role. So I like that storyline that they did there.
I think that's why that convo hit home. You know what I mean? And somebody like a Geoffrey in that sense to be able to step out of that role that he's in. Of being like he's working for Uncle Phil essentially, right? Most people are gonna tell, even though he's playing that role, like that Jason Bourne-ish type of role. It's still his boss. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's still somebody that's signing his checks. So
I'm still waiting for that episode next season where they actually show how them two get connected.
Yeah, like I said, I have to believe that's coming. I have to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because just knowing the fact how they put in more time to show about how Will got to Philly and about in his life in Philly, which they never really did on the comedy show. I really hope that they step in and kind of show how that relationship with Phil and Geoffrey come about, because obviously in the comedy you can clear like, yo, he filled out the application and he got the job,
right?
But you don't get the job, as you said, of Jason Bourne by filling out no application.
Yeah, exacth
You know what I mean?
There's definitely some sweat equity. And
yeah, I was just about to say something was signed in blood for that for that job. So
and to your point, like I hope, to what you're saying before, I hope that they bring in the original Aunt Viv for next season and try to put her in some role somehow to kind of connect even with Chocolatey Aunt Viv here. Like I wonder how that works. Her name is Cassandra Freeman in real life, but
Cassandra Freeman.
Yeah,
okay.
but Chocolatey Aunt Viv, you want to see how that works out. 'Cause I think that would be even a greater touch if she comes in for season 2. I think that would be dope. What are your unfiltered thoughts on Hilary?
Glad you said unfiltered. She's dope. We talked about this from the first scene. I was like, damn. I said, who is this? To figure out who Coco Jones was.
Right.
To tell you the truth, I still can't really. I know the name, but I still can't place her. As I said from the beginning, I just love her style on the show.
Yeah.
Her style is so trendy. I just like that spin that they put on her. Not to say that the original Hilary wasn't stylish,
mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I just love the outfits they put on her.
Yeah, it's
I mean?
It's chic, it's rich, but it's not above you.
Exactly.
She's still attainable, and that's the word to look for.
I mean, like it just hugs her. It just hugs her well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I sound like I'm too much of a perv when I say that, but I'm just liking the style that they put on her.
Right.
2, I love how the original Hilary is really ditzy, and this one she uses her own mind, and I love the fact again where Aunt Vi was like, you know what? Instead of getting your pops to get you out this situation, try to figure it out on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when she came with the idea with Chris Brown's chick.
Yeah. I can't remember her name on the show, but Karuchi, is it Karuchi? Karuchi Tran?
Yeah, Karuchi Chan or whatever, yeah. Was it Iris or Isis or something like that? I can't remember.
So. Yeah.
But when she came with the plan about, how to get out of it and to buy out her contract. I mean, it still sounded a little far fetched, but I like the fact like they made her somebody that can defend on her own, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not to say that she's still on the light side because she's about the fashion and stuff like that, so they're still keeping it to the core in that regard.
Right.
But they give her a little bit more layers to her, that she has a mind of her own that's a little bit more fulfilled. I felt obviously the original Hilary, they made her more of an airhead. This one she can talk for herself. Yeah. And Jazz is getting it in, yo.
Hey man, listen. Look, man. Look, even the original, even DJ Jazzy Jeff was shocked and awed at the fact that the two of them are a bit of an item. He was like, that wasn't even a thought when he was on the original Fresh Prince. But
yeah, I actually saw the interview where he was like, "Yo, I was even shocked."
Yeah, for sure. He's like, "Yo, they really flipped this thing on its ear." But I tell you what, I think this is the most reimagined character of the show outside of Geoffrey, because think about it. Like you put this Hilary in this world now. The Hilary type would be into social media. She'd be all up on social media.
Yeah,
she'd be linking up with other social influencers, whether it's IG, Twitter, TikTok, whatever it is. She would definitely be into fashion. The thing I didn't think she'd be taken serious is her cooking, but that's kind of like a nod to the original show. I think there was like an episode where she was kind of like running. She wasn't cooking.
No, she
like the original.
No, but she did.
No, but she wasn't cooking. I remember she wasn't cooking. She was just kind of like catering the affair, but she wasn't cooking. She wasn't the one that actually.
No. I mean, her thing. She was a weather girl. That was her thing. Right. But again, she was in front of the TV. Right. She was in front of it. She was in front of an audience. So yeah, it would. But you know what? They had to do that, because if they would have made her just as an Instagram model,
mm-hmm.
Then you're going back more to the ditzy side again.
Right.
So they still made it in about social media, but social media with a purpose, which I liked.
Yeah, like that. I mean, she's the furthest thing away from being an airhead, which I love from day one. Like, this version is about, she's about her business. She very much wants to stand on her own too, and she's a hustler. Like that whole Kylo incident where she has to pay, you know, to like as you said, like to come out of her contract to pay like was it 50 grand or 500? No, I think it was 500 grand, right, to get out of the contract. But
No, I don't think it was 5. I think it was 50.
50, okay. But the old Hilary would have absolutely called up her pops and have her take care of it. She probably would have moved back home. You know what I mean? And either it's like to her old room or the pool house. And right now, this one, you know, like this version of Hilary is riding on her parents' credit card because she's staying.
Yeah, that's what I said. There's still
elements.
Still keeping
of
a little bit of it,
but she's doing everything to get out of this situation and not involve them. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like, and I know, you know, the last episode we were saying like I don't really want to, you know, you try not to compare. But for this character, you have to compare because it's such an opposite end of the spectrum. Like you can't unsee it. You have to compare it. You know what I mean?
Well, as you said, it's not a complete opposite end because, as you said, if this Hilary of 2022 would be into social media, right? So it's not a complete opposite end. But I like the twist that they put on it.
Right.
I love the twist that they put on it.
Yeah, I think the way she takes advice and try to figure things out on her own, like in an independent space, it's probably one of the best things about the show. To be honest with you, like I know, you know, both of us we was a fan of Insecure, right? And that Insecure doc that they had to finish off the series, I remember there was a part with Amanda Seales where she talks about, you know, how her character in it was bougie, but they also took elements from the old Hilary to kind of make that work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the new
Hilary and Different World.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Whitley. Right. Whitley. Yes, exactly. Right. Right. Talking about like the terms of bougie black princess characters, that type of thing. But this new Hill only resembles her in fashion in that kind of sense. And that's really it. Because even think about it. Like even Hilary was very selfish and about herself. And then this version of her, she's taking on a big sister role. Like her siblings, you know, the ones underneath her, younger than her, they actually seek her counsel. It's so radically different. It's just it's crazy.
And we can't forget the fact that she's a dark-skinned sister too.
I know.
Calvin.
I know.
That
Chocolatey too. Man.
Chocolatey also, man. And you know, some people's like, what does that matter? It's like, representation matters.
Absolutely matters.
Because usually a role like that where it's somebody that is, you know, the sexy woman would be light skin.
Light skin, yeah.
Right? And we talked about it, even the fact that Lisa is a little bit more curvish.
Yeah.
Right? You're going against the norm. And you love when you see that.
I absolutely love her role. I think it's probably one of the more important roles of the show, to be honest with you, even though we understand Will, Carlton, everybody else, but like she's fleshed out a really important role for herself.
Well, especially for sisters, she's definitely you're gonna see. I mean, it all really depends on how many seasons this goes down, right? But if this is something that ends up going 5+ seasons, you're gonna hear girls growing up talking about this is the role that got me into acting,
right? Or
got me into thinking that I could do
more
social media or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It all really depends on if this show passes the test of time. How many seasons did Insecure have in Blackish? I think it's about 5, 6. Yeah, 5, 6 seasons.
5 seasons of Insecure. I think Blackish is ending this year, and I think this is I believe it's the 8th season. I think it's the 8th season.
Yeah, I'm about to say I know that one's a little longer.
Right.
But it seems like if it makes that 5 to 6 season threshold, yeah, you're gonna hear people talk about it.
It has an impact, much like a Insecure has that impact.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of in terms of Hilary having the most important role, do you think they should have fleshed out Ashley's role more?
No, you know why? Because honestly, I think it was great to leave a little bit of that for the second season.
Yeah,
they gave you a little taste of what can be, and quite frankly, she may be a little confused of what she feels, and that's reality.
Yeah,
right?
especially now the way
exactly
things are
because
portrayed,
she's 12, 13 on the show. So I'm like, I like the fact that they kind of left that question mark and for that to be explored further on in the following seasons. I don't know. I like my shows messy, and I don't know you've heard me talk this before. Like some of these dramas, which are long and sometimes very drawn out.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like those shows, especially when they're character driven shows.
Because it breeds development, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You know what I mean? I don't need everything to be fulfilled so quickly. Like people ask the question, would you rather a movie or a series? I'll take a series over a movie any day,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm fine with that, tell you the truth. And realistically speaking, when you think about the first episodes of or seasons of Fresh Prince of Bel Air, I mean, Ashley was a younger one, so she wasn't really
The focus.
all in the
Yeah.
scenes until she got older, and she get into her teenage years and stuff like that. So I'm fine with it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I got no problem. I have no problem with it.
Yeah, and it's funny because as far as her LGQBT interests are concerned, it's definitely something that wasn't touching the original. But I feel like, it's indicative of how things are portrayed today, like in terms of how the community is represented. Like, I do wonder though, if in real life this uber rich family deals with this scenario of Ashley possibly going in this direction, like. It seems like by the end of the season, I wouldn't say, at least the ladies were kind of knew about it. They're just very nonchalant about it. But in real life, is everybody that nonchalant about it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I wonder that.
Yeah, maybe not, but I honestly really love the way that Aunt Viv again handled it.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, she figured something was up. She approached her. Obviously she wasn't open to talk about it right now, but she left the door
right on the
open.
phone. Yeah.
Huh?
She said she hopped right on her phone afterwards, like
Yeah, exactly.
like a millennial or the Gen Zs would do.
Exactly, but she left the door open for her to talk to her about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is that the approach that most parents will do? Who knows?
Yeah.
Probably not. But that's probably the way that it should be handled, right? With a little bit of sophistication and with some white gloves in a scenario such as that. So nowadays it seems like every show has some touch of it anyways. So this was actually pretty fair in comparison to other shows, right?
Yeah. It's interesting though. She's also a gaslighter. Like you see, it's funny because the question that when they're at the art gallery and she kind of needles Carlton, where she's like, maybe you should have been watching The Throne better when he's looking at the picture of Will. I'm like, yo, is she a shit starter?
Exactly. When she said that, I was like, damn. Did I? I was wondering, did I receive that how I thought it was supposed to be received? Because I thought that was kind of cool.
I was like, damn. I was like, she a shit starter? Is there some villainous, untrustworthy tactics in this girl? Like, yo, how you gonna come out like that, man? I'm like, damn. I'm like, if that's my younger sister, I'm like, yo, who you talking to, dog? Like,
you know what I mean? Know your role.
Yo, but I'm like, yo, she a bit of a gaslighter. Okay, yeah, that's a little shade. The way she kind of laid that out, I kind of wonder about her role going into season 2, if she's gonna kind of lean on those moments a little more. Be the shit disturber for Carlton, maybe.
Well, I know she's not gonna be completely innocent because, I mean, she wasn't completely innocent in the real one either, right?
Right.
Obviously, in the drama, you can get a little bit more risque with it, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, for a comedy, Ashley had her levels. But when you put Ashley in a drama, yeah, she's not gonna be walking no even line. Mm-hmm. she's gonna get herself in trouble.
Yeah, and she seems very smart and intelligent. So.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So if she has that kind of like, she's gonna toe the line kind of thing too, or walk on both ends of the line, then yeah, that's where it can get a little interesting as a character portrayal at least.
Yeah, she reminded to Avery a little bit. I could see Avery being kind of the same way, a little bit of a smart mouth, very intelligent, and knowing what she's doing.
That's his daughter for people listening, because you just mentioned it.
Yeah. I could, with her talking about when Ave was like, oh, all of a sudden you about all the gay rights. Like, well, gay rights should be everybody's rights. You know what I mean? Like, everybody should be. It's not like I'm taking one or the other. I think they're both important. I could just see Ave doing the same thing, just walking around the subject, acting like acting like she don't know what I'm talking about, and me walking out the room off damn perplexed. Like, okay, I can definitely see her do that.
Yo, so let me get to some random questions here. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like that this uber rich family represents Team Dark Skin?
Yo, Team Dark Skin, Team Light Skin. I'm just loving the fact it's us.
Well, yeah, 100%, 100%.
And again, like, we always looked at the regular Will Smith, like, yeah, they're rich, they do good for themselves. But yo, they got them on some kind of Hilton type level with the wealth that they have. Like, I honestly want them, because they even talked about it. Lou was saying like, how Phil was starting to make money and stuff like this. I hope they touch on how he amasses this wealth.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's an attorney, and I know attorneys who are broke, and then obviously you got attorneys who are filthy rich like that. I hope they kind of touch about how did he come to amass the wealth that he has.
Who did he represent? Those type of things.
Yeah. Like how did he get to this windfall? Right. So, and again, I'm fine that they didn't talk about that in this season, but hopefully, as you said, if this goes down a few seasons, maybe not even next season, that they touch on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. Because even when they talk about, what's his name? I forget his nickname that they call him.
Yamakra.
Right. Yamakra. Obviously they're talking about, like, once he started making money, he changed a little bit and all that stuff. Like, I hope they talk about a little bit about that, about how he was before and what kind of changes, who he had to leave behind when he was making it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, again, just as much as we want to know about how him and Geoffrey got connected, I'm feeling that up in that swing, maybe he repped Geoffrey at some point, because we know Geoffrey ain't clean.
No.
Right?
No.
And maybe he was in that.
Geoffrey got some bodies on him.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So maybe he helped him change his life while repping him. Like, you know what I mean? So those two stories could probably cross each other, right? So yeah, I'm hoping that they touch on that. But I'm loving it. I'm loving it because I'm trying to think. Have we ever seen a family at this level with this type of wealth,
right,
on TV?
Yeah, I'm putting on a scale of a 10, and I'm not trying to pit team dark skin versus light skin type of thing.
No. I know you weren't. I know you weren't.
Right, but
I'm just saying that I don't think I've seen it on any level.
Yeah,
not at this level.
But I the reason why I love it from the team dark skin perspective is because you honestly on TV see less and less of it, and like to make them like in terms of the family, you know what I mean? Like to make them so wealthy, like I think it's a good thing because. To what we were talking about before, it's all about representation, right? Like, even though it's fictional, it's fictional. Like, it's still important to see images that you normally don't see doing it big because, especially for that younger generation and for those that, still choose to dream and, like, be inspired by what they see, having positive representation matters. And, I felt like for years being a dark-skinned family was just never seen on TV as a positive thing. You know what I mean? Like we've gone so much further and further removed from that. I think for an example, like, A Different World, and I've heard people say this, I kind of believe this too, where it's like, if there was a show that made me aspire to go to college, it was that show. I'm not saying, I didn't have other influences, of course, other than, people in my household, friends like yourself as well, right? But if there was a TV show that made me feel like going to college was cool, it was A Different World. You know what I mean? But it made going to school, like in terms of the characters of that show, outside of Ron Johnson, everybody valued their education. You know what I mean? Like it made it cool. Like it wasn't just about the star jock or the star athlete. Or, you know what I mean? Like it was the star of the show was a mathematician. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
true.
Like people was a doctor, people was lawyers, people were about the arts. Like they didn't even talk about sports really on the show. Like it. I know, talking about stuff that Bill Cosby was involved in and everything else, and like it makes it taboo to talk about. But in terms of television shows, in terms of like that actual content of television shows, those are great representations of what like young adults or black families can do and what they can be, right? So, that's why I think looking at it from that perspective, I think it's great to see because we just don't see it anymore. You know what I mean? We just actually don't see it.
You're right. I've been touching saying that you have some people who, when they feel that they've made it, and some people might take this the wrong way, where if you have a successful black man, they're looking for their white trophy, right? Mm-hmm. And the fact that he has a sister and kind of in the same realm as the main show, like she was with him from the beginning, right? And he wrote it with her, and still with her. He's not on the second or third marriage, right? He's still with his high school sweetheart or college sweetheart, and rocking the family, and still very much in love with each other, right? I can say it. I mean, we didn't necessarily see that growing up, right? So it's when I saw it on the Cosby Show, that was intriguing. Because it's like, shit, I want to be, you know what I mean? He was like, I want that to be my family. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like everybody kind of had a little piece of them that I wouldn't say envious, but it put a smile on your face. Mm-hmm. And this show, again, if it lasts the time frame that it needs to, it's gonna put that same kind of smile on other young kids' faces. Yeah. Growing up and watching that.
Are we?
But yeah, what were you saying?
Yeah, are we good with Hilary and Jazz hooking up and Will just being super cool with it?
Yo, I find that kind of funny when he called Hilary and then he called Jazz. Yo, put Hilary on the phone. Mm. I find the show they're real easy going with a lot of things because, as I said, the whole thing with Will going with his cousin's ex. Yeah. I mean, I know he was obviously upset with it at the beginning. But that lasted like 4 episodes, and that should have never happened. Right. And I'm not as disturbed about Will because I'm confused because I think we talked about this. I think I talked to some people about this. In the original show, Will and Jazz were like the same age. Right. Although Will is obviously clearly a teenager. But Jazz is running his own record label shop and doing Uber on the side.
He's like a little older.
Yeah, he's a little older, mm-hmm. Right? Right. So in that regard, it's like, is Will really going to be like, what you doing with my cousin? When this guy's
that's a
older.
Good point. I didn't think about it from that perspective. So, I'm thinking about it from the friend perspective.
And then even the fact that Will called Jazz at the end, you know what I mean, when he had nowhere else to go. They're friends, but I think he kind of looks at him as an older brother on the same spectrum as well too. Yeah. Where if they were homies, like the same age or something like that, that would seem a little. I think it would seem a little bit more weird.
That's a good point. I didn't think about it from that perspective. I think, I guess too because he's only known Jazz for like less than a year, so the loyalty ain't the same. But
exactly.
From that perspective, if they're the same age, it couldn't break down like that in real life. The average guy doesn't want his homie clown on his family member.
No. Like, but I think because he's a little. I think it's a little different dynamic than what it was in the original one. I mean, the original one, we all love Jazz, but Jazz was there for like comic relief. Right. Right. This Jazz has a little bit more of a serious, important role, mm-hmm. which I'm digging. Yeah. Right. They're putting a little bit more layers about Jazz, shit. Now, come to think about it, we might end up finding more about Jazz and his family and like where he came from. I kind of like how they're building these characters. As I said, I love shows that builds characters, and I feel like what we've seen in season one,
Mm-hmm.
they can do that.
And the
They
fact
can
that
do that if they decide to.
the fact that they open up these doors that you can kind of flesh out these directions that they can go is also, I think, it's the foundations of a good show, right?
Yeah.
It's a foundation of a good show because, you know, like when you start picturing and imagining things before they're even happening, you know what I mean, whether they come true or not, like that to me is like a good foundation. That's like the start of a good foundational block for a show.
Yo, to tell you the truth, like it could be two things. At first, I was kind of pissed off that they're running through all these storylines, unless the whole game plan is the first season to be in alignment of what the real Will Smith, the real Fresh Prince of Bel Air,
Mm-hmm.
and then for it to go in a whole different spectrum where we already know it's clearly different from the original, but where they want to just bring it into storylines which it never even came to fruition,
Right.
with the original six seasons.
Right.
So maybe there's a little bit of that where like, yeah, you know what, we're going to start it on the same premises, but we're going to have these roots go in different directions than what it was before, where it's really going to be a show on its own accord.
And no question, but like, you know, going back to the original question, like I get it from that perspective. You bring up a great point because again, if they're a little like we don't know what their age difference is, but yeah, you can see he has Jazz as a couple of years on him. Because I'm thinking like, for example, like most friends don't want, you know, as I said, most friends don't want, you know, their homies clawing at their family member. Because I remember like there was a time where I went to go check this friend out of mine. I went out of town to check this friend of mine. This is a few years back, and we were going to this party, and we was in front of this apartment building, and my friend's niece came out the elevator and came downstairs, right? So I'm watching the niece, and I'm like, man, like, yo, this girl grew up. Like, look at her. This girl's really nice and beautiful. Look at this girl, you know? And I remember I turned over on my left shoulder because I'm in the passenger seat, right? I turned over and looked at my
You're talking about. Yo, you got me. I'm like, yo, who's he talking about? I'm like,
and I turned over and looked at this friend, you know, and this homie gave me the eyes of death. I've never been a friend of Headley's. I mean, this friend. I never been afraid of this friend before in my life. But it was the one time that like a little bit of pee almost came out.
but again, you see how that's different. Where me and you same age, the niece is younger than me. Where this scenario with Will, Jazz is older, and this is older cousin,
mm-hmm.
right? So that dynamics at age, it flips it a little differently.
Yo, but you're right. But yo, every time I turned in the back seat and I turned back around, I don't even know how you was driving. You was staring. You was waiting for me to turn around, man. Every time I'm like, dude, I ain't gonna do nothing. But I don't know how you was driving with like four eyes, man. Because like every time I turned back, every time I was in the conversation, I turned back around. You was staring me right in the face. That look was waiting for me every time I turned back around. I'm like, I thought that was kind of like, wow. Like that was like, yo, this guy really might slit my throat. He really might do it.
Yo, man. I always say, yo, if you're going to do something like that, you better make sure that's for love. You know what I mean?
The moment you call it quits, the Wu-Tang Clan 35 people showed up to your front door.
Yeah, that ain't for no quickie.
Now, were you upset that Uncle Phil fired Geoffrey?
Yo, as I said, I was expecting that. Like, as I said, when I actually saw the previews, I remember I hit you up. I was like, yo, you're right. I think we're gonna get an episode about his back life.
Mm-hmm.
So when it was basically that clip where he leans in was basically right when he fired him, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that at all. And then I was even more surprised that Geoffrey went and found Lou, told Lou where his son was at, probably, drew him a map to
Yeah,
right to
laid
the
it
front
out.
door.
Laid it right out.
Yo, I wasn't expecting that neither. So whatever happened with Geoffrey and his kids, it's deep.
Yeah.
It's deep. I can't wait. I can't wait for that story to come out.
Like I wasn't crazy about how their conversation ended, like the way they kind of played it off about how he was gonna like tell the family that he was gonna leave. But I like that Geoffrey gave Phil some hard truths about himself, with selfishness and how that affects the family, and he made it his place to say so after deciding that Will not knowing about Lou wasn't cool, right? But and again, this is another reason why I love this new Geoffrey, because like again he's got that Bond Jason Bourne thing. But he still has his beliefs and morals to like not be afraid to stand on his own too. For me, again, I think he's too important. I'm not worried about him leaving the show or anything like that. But
no.
But
He's coming back.
But I tell you what, Headley, if he leaves the show, it's gonna be like I don't know if you got into Luke Cage, but it'll be like Cottonmouth.
Yeah.
It'll be like Cottonmouth dying halfway through season 1 of Luke Cage.
Yo, the way Aunt Viv reacted when she found out what happened. He's coming back.
Yeah, no, he's
he's coming back.
No, he's got to come back because, like I said, that Cottonmouth thing to this day still bothers me the way he got killed off halfway through season 1. It changed the whole show. He was a great character. It changed the whole show.
Yeah.
It changed the whole show. So to me, I'm like, yeah, like you like I think the show loses a bit of punch if we don't explore like what Geoffrey's gonna be on this show. Like, nah, man, you can't. It can't work out that way. But I'm not worried though about him leaving though. I think he's solidified his role a little too deep. Even though in this it's one season, it's 10 episodes. He solidified that role too deep for him to be out of here that fast. It's not happening.
And again, we know that they're making this show on its own pillars.
Right.
But the fact that Geoffrey was a predominant player in the original. There's no way that they send him off after one season.
No, they can't.
In this one,
yeah, they can't.
They can't do that. He's one of the main characters, right? There's no way. There's no Fresh Prince of Bel Air without the butler.
For sure.
Like, yeah. So that's it. There's no way you can't have no house that big and not have
nobody's taking care of it.
You nuts?
That's a full-time job for real.
Yo, that is a full-time job.
And it's funny you say that because like there was a part I think in the last episode where they're like, "Yo, where's the food? Like, where's the groceries? Like, what the hell's going on here?" Like,
exactly. Like, where's Geoffrey?
So yeah, you're right.
It's
a full-time job. That's a legit full-time job to be taking care of that house. You wouldn't need a butler for that.
For real,
or a house manager, as they say now.
House, yeah, that's exactly house. That's a house manager, straight up.
Now, why do they have Will falling in love so fast? I don't like this.
Yo, I said the same thing. I was like, yo, that's one thing. Like, yo, this guy he got around. He had his sisters.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, not to say that he was a gigolo player on the show, but yo, Joe had, Will had game, right? Yeah. And you witnessed that. Him getting all lovey-dovey so quickly, I was like, actually, I don't even think he really. I know he got like later on in the seasons and stuff, but yeah, I didn't. One being Carlton's ex, I don't even know what they didn't have to do that. And for it to happen in that first season, it's a one part of the show, high above everything else, that I don't like. You
know what they could have did now thinking about this? They could have made it like Lisa an interest for Carlton, like not necessarily them being together, but just this is somebody that Carlton actually really likes, and then will come to the new school and just takes it over. That would have been, I think, a more realistic thing than having him just straight fall in love with his ex. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Or he doesn't step aside and
so
just be like,
too.
yeah, not step aside and be like, well, I am in Bel Air, I'm in LA, I'm in Hollywood. Let me see what the scene is like. You know what I mean? And he's kind of
dude, it was from like day one.
Yeah,
day one they were dancing together at the party when Carlton pushed him into the water. I was like, nah. I was like, I didn't like that. I didn't like that storyline at all. As you said, if it was an interest and he got a little jealous because he couldn't get the girl that he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But for him to be full-fledged dating this chick and then again, we talked about it before. The family, I guess the family still don't know that he's dating her, right? Or do they? I don't think they know that Will and Lisa's dating other than Carlton. Correct?
Carlton, I think Hilary knows too. Hilary knows too. Hilary knows.
Okay, but the parents don't, because I'm saying like
because well, think about it, because even the phone call that he had to Jazz and Hilary was about Lisa, right? So
oh yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
She
right. So
definitely
Hilary
knows.
knows.
Yeah, she definitely knows.
But again, yeah, and Hilary, that was called the sister. Like it just doesn't that don't flow that easily. That's some TV show stuff right there.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, I'm just trying to think on it right now. Like, you know, you got him driving around in his own Lexus. He's becoming popular at school. Like, I'm not saying he's got to be 1,000% gallus, but like, I'm thinking it would have been realistic to make him at least explore his environment a little more. Even if you want to keep the Lisa angle there, let it be something where they're kind of flirting it out a little bit. You know what I mean? Not dive all the way into it. Like, that's something where maybe they get into season 2.
If they go 5-6 seasons of Will and Lisa together,
like Ross and Rachel, like
I'm gonna tune out of that shit real quick.
Yeah,
like I can't I can't have 5-6 seasons of
Will
and Lisa.
Yeah, Will they? Won't they? Like one of those shows. Yeah.
That better be that really better be some Insecure type shit. Where
right.
They break up.
You don't want it to be you don't want it to be Issa and Lawrence. That's basically what you try to say.
No. I said if it's gonna be 5-6 seasons, it better be Issa and Lawrence.
Oh, it better be Issa and
Lawrence.
Yeah.
They break up, get back together, holler at other people. Like it can't be 5-6 seasons of just love.
Right.
Hell no. It better be messy. It better be messy, just like Issa and Lawrence.
Yeah, and it's funny because, you know, we both experienced this, that, like, you know, moving out of our original city, but like anytime you move to a new city, you gotta. My philosophy is you give yourself about a year or 2 years before you start settling down. You got to get to know the city, what you like, what you don't like.
You already know how I felt when I came here. I felt like pig and shit. I was like, yo, this felt like a whole new planet that I was exploring.
Right.
There's a whole new planet. Ain't no way.
Now imagine falling in love 3 months after settling down in the city.
Please,
it's not realistic. I would have stopped you.
My body wouldn't allow me to. You did stop me. What are you talking about? Let's not even get into that story.
One day when I set up the Patreon lives,
man.
that story will definitely make the Patreon live. Let's just say that.
Y'all, let me just say, one weekend with my boys coming in town, destroyed whatever thought I thought about trying to be a loyal man. It just kicked that right out the door.
And rightfully so. I don't even feel bad about it either. I really don't even.
You're the right choice. You're the right choice.
Were you well? You did say you were a fan of Phil backing out of the running for district attorney, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I didn't necessarily like that he gave it up to that dude.
Yeah, because for me, it's like I would have liked to see where things would have went if he would have just kind of ignored it and just won the DA position over Lisa's father and just see how how he fights off that angle.
What I feel like's gonna happen. I feel like he's not clean, and I feel like something's gonna come out in his past where
Phil's past or Lisa's father's past?
No, Lisa's father's past.
Well, yeah, you know he ain't clean because he ain't clean. You know he ain't clean because look, I mean his ex-wife was passing away and he was getting it on with the he had a side piece already.
Yo, that was another great scene with Aunt Vi.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So you know he ain't
So
clean already.
yeah, you know he ain't clean. So I only, I'm not, as I said, I don't think him being Uncle Phil being district attorney would have worked because I think it would have been too big of a distraction to the overall storyline.
Mm-hmm.
However, in some ways, I don't necessarily feel like Lisa's father is going to win neither.
Mm.
I feel like something's going to come out in that.
Yeah,
That,
sorry, go ahead.
and it might very well be that same story about he was skeezing out on his wife when she was dying, right? Because you know politics and family life is all mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that's a storyline that actually comes out and he doesn't win either.
Yeah, because like I don't know, I kind of would have like him stepping back. It was a little bit surprising. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting it either. But it was a safe move. I mean, sorry, any rational person would have did the same. But I didn't want to see safe in that scenario. I wanted to see it a little bit messy as well. I wanted to see how things would have blown up. You know,
yeah.
But it's like I understood it, but I was like, I would have liked to see him just be like, yo, F that. I'm still going for the win here. Yeah, and just seeing how the cards play out. I think they would have made the storylines going into season 2 like a little more interesting as well.
True.
Here's a question that, like, you know, I've had this discussion with many people over the years. You know, but thinking of that Geoffrey and Phil argument, blow up situation, what have you, like, can you be rich and successful and still be a family man?
Yeah. Good question.
I don't know the answer to that. Like the optimist in me wants to believe that you could do all things at the same time, and I lean towards that, like thinking that you can. But you know, I know it ain't easy, and it's almost impossible to do unless you're constantly working from home, or you know, or you and your kids are sitting in on your meeting, or your kids are sitting on your meetings or your projects. You know what I mean? But like, it's a lot of work. Like I'm not saying you can't pull it off. It's not impossible, but man, it's hard. It's hard.
Because like you said, because it almost feels like you need 100% of your time on both avenues to be that successful as a father and as a provider, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and as you said, like you almost put it into like I'll put it into terms of 140 characters in Instagram. Like everybody always puts in their best 5%, and that's what reps. That's what you see, but you don't see the other 95%. We don't know it realistically. We don't know we're not in people's four walls, right? So what always might look like an uber successful, everything is cutting edge family life, professional life, and then you hear down the road that there was this issue and that issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough, right? And we may never really know until you fulfill it or you're part of it yourself. But yeah, it's hard to see like how you're on every cylinder. However, I do like the fact that they don't necessarily make everything perfect among them, right? And dude, this is funny because it might be something small, but it's something I picked up where I'm like, yo, Uncle Phil has these kids cursing at him.
Yeah.
And this dude don't flinch, no nothing. I'm like, man, this guy's really even keeled. Cause I'm like,
yeah, you weren't doing that with the old Uncle Phil. You were running for your life if you did that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm like, yo, really in a real life situation. You know what I mean? When
that ain't happening.
This success, you gonna have your nephew who just moved in here cussing you out? I'm like, nah, that shit ain't riding like that.
No.
You
and
kid ain't cussing you out.
Let's face it, we're black, so that doesn't matter how rich you get. You that ain't happen. That ain't working.
Yeah,
that
kid ain't
working.
cussing you out, and then you tell him to give him a hug. I'm sorry, that might be the psychological thing to do, but that shit ain't happening like that. You know what I mean? So,
the West Indian bloodlines is flying out of here. The West Indian bloodlines is coming through in those situations, and when you're getting cursed out like that especially by your kids or that ain't flying. That is not flying. And they know, and they know it too. Like it's just we just don't do that as black people. We don't do that. That's not something we do. So it doesn't matter how poor or rich we are. That ain't something we do. But that's a tough part though. Like that's a tough part of it all, right? Thinking about this question, because like they always say you have to sacrifice something if you're gonna go for it, right? And depending on
dude, how many documentaries have we seen where they're reflected about a family upbringing where everything looked great on paper.
Oh, but it was a complete mess behind the scenes, right? Like
it's just straight turmoil.
The kids were on drugs. Like it's funny. There's so many stories because I've heard Whoopi Goldberg talk about this because I think she has a daughter, and she was like, she wasn't around as much as she should have been for a daughter, but she was like, I was at this point where I could go for it and take my life to this next level, and I knew what I was sacrificing, but she's like, I chose to go for it. And she's like, I figure, I'm going to have to come back and try to fix those relationships later, or fix that relationship later. But she's like, I'm going to go for it. And I remember seeing this, it was on an interview that she had. And I was like, man, it's tough, man. And I'm always thinking, like, do you always have to do that? Like, it's funny because to touch on your point, like, I remember watching this thing, I think it came out a year or 2 years ago with Michael Douglas. They interviewed Kirk Douglas, Michael Douglas, and Michael Douglas's son. And Michael Douglas's son is like a cokehead, right? Like it was like, and they interviewed the three of them, and he was talking about it. And his son is like in his, he's probably around our age, but his son was probably doing hard drugs like cocaine and all that stuff from when he was like in grade 7, like 12 years old, 13 years old. He was on cocaine, but a part of it was like, his pops was out there, working all these big movies, and this is the time, Fatal Attraction and all these movies that was out. Like he was like, but there was a point in time, Wall Street. Michael Douglas was the man. You know what I mean?
Trust me, Michael Douglas was my favorite actor.
Yeah, he was the man, right? Like he did all these like big, huge, tremendous roles, and but that whole time, like he wasn't physically there, right? So that part of it was like he started turning to other stuff, and it's like, and you can see the pain in his face, but it's like, it's like, what's the cost, man? Like, I think there's
an opportunity cost with everything. Right?
Yeah, I think about that. Like, even doing what I'm doing now in terms of the podcast, I think about that all the time. Like, how far are you willing to sacrifice to make stuff work? And some of it is obviously I think a large part of it is, I think is my theory is like, communication absolutely softens the blow when it comes to this. Like letting your kids know as much as possible about the moves you're looking to make, kind of makes them feel involved, but
included.
Right. So, and I think that's super important. It softens the blow, but is that still actually the same as actually being there? Like I've told you this story too about how, my pops, right? Like it's a funny story, but like when playing basketball, I played up until university, and my pops saw my games at 7th grade, and the next game he saw was when I was in university. And it was like, don't get me wrong, it didn't tear me up inside, it didn't trample on my childhood or anything like that, but there definitely was a sense of disconnection, you know what I mean, between something that I love to do, from those early years and trying to attain certain dreams regarding that. And like I that wasn't something that, and I know you can relate, but that's not something that I definitely discuss really with my pops. You know what I mean? There was a sense of disconnection because he was never there, right? When it came to that part of it, right? So
I was all Canadian in track by the time my father knew I was running track.
Right.
So, and you know what? Honestly, there's not enough time for us to go down here because, as I said, there's a lot of things that you thought was normal in your childhood, and I didn't realize it wasn't until I became a father myself.
Right.
And then that's when you realize, like, that wasn't regular, or it shouldn't have been regular, right? But that's all you knew.
So
Right.
you really had no compass or anything to compare it to,
Compare it to. Right.
right? And yeah, it shapes you. It definitely shapes you inadvertently. Like you don't even realize. So yeah, I mean, involvement definitely is is a big component.
Yeah.
It's a big component because, but back in the day, parents or fathers were to be providers and providers only.
Right.
Like that was the
That was their
extent of
job.
their
Right.
of their role, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, you grow up a certain way and not necessarily whole because of it. So yeah, I mean, shoot, we go on this tangent. God knows where this conversation will go to. However, going back to about the series, it might be unrealistic, Calvin, but honestly, it's a nice fairy tale to have, and it's nice to even think like, let's think that it is possible to have everything
It's funny.
because
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine today, and I'm like, just about this actual topic, and I'm like, I guess that's the optimist in me because I kind of look at it like, yo, why the hell can't I have it all? Like, why the f not?
exactly,
Right? Like, who says that you have to
exactly,
sacrifice one or the other? Why the f can't I have both? Like
yeah,
it's like I guess that's the part of it. Like you even see it on the results of the show, right? Like part of the reason why Carlton feels that, like Carlton feels the way he goes in terms of like sniffing Xanax and cocaine and stuff is like he feels that pressure, and it's the way he deals about it when anxiety and everything else, he goes sideways because living up under the shadow of his father or his parents is a huge thing. But you see every time his father steps up in his corner, it's definitely appreciated, and you can see like he
hmm
kind of longs for that, right? So like that whole importance of just being physically present as a parent is as important as the lesson that you're teaching them, right? But
yeah,
it's tough because it's like as kids we grew up and now we're the parents. It's like they are watching your every move, your success and your failures. So it's crazy. You know what I mean? But I do think like that's a question like I always, and like that conversation between him and Phil and Geoffrey, like it really made me think about that. Like, wow, like with the way he was laying it out, you're like all those moves you're making, thinking like, yo, we got the Uber house. Everybody's got a car. You know what I mean? Like everybody's got a fly car, not just a car. Everybody's got a sick car. You know what I mean? Like you're in the best schools, the best this, the best that, everything else. But it's like the shit still ain't perfect.
yeah.
And
And
it's,
when and what he's saying is like, don't act like you're doing it for somebody else, or you're trying to convince yourself to not be in to do the bad thing. Is like you feel like you want the permission and the okay to do it, but you yearn for it. That's what you want to do.
mhm.
You try to act like, not to say these two shows are not the same in terms of Bel Air and Billions,
Right.
but just in the sense where you need coaxing to believe that you're a good person because you want to do this bad move. When
Mhm.
realistically speaking, you want to do this bad move, but you just don't want to look like a dickhead to do it,
Right.
right? And that's basically what Geoffrey in this circumstance and what the shrink and Billions is doing. They're stripping the truth. They're making you naked, and it's uncomfortable,
Mhm.
right? I know it's uncomfortable for me when when you're trying to like assess a situation and you know what it really is, but it's sometimes hard to look at that person in the mirror.
Right.
It's the same thing that they're doing there on the television show.
Yeah, which it's a great angle. Like let's
Oh,
not get it twisted. It's a great angle, but it's realistic
oh, for
because
sure.
that's something where again we've seen all the
Everybody
documentaries and
does that.
shows. Yeah, like that's a real thing. Like what's the cost of success, right? And I think that's one of the things it's an underrated thing that's laid out throughout like the show. That's kind of like the undercurrent of the show. What is not the definition, but what is the cost of success? And that's why things aren't perfect. But it is
And
kind of
then
like an
not even
undercurrent of
that.
it.
We haven't touched it. If you look at the relationship between um, Will's mother and his aunt, the two sisters,
Right.
right? Where while she was trying to do her art, the mother and her older sister
Yeah,
put her
Aunt
through
Viv.
school,
Yeah.
paid for her art supplies. A lot of times you don't realize like they say like nobody makes it on their own,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
There's always people that sacrifices for you. Some of them, some it could be small, some could be big, but a lot of times when we're in it, we take it for granted, right?
Mhm.
Or we're we not even take it for granted, but we're unaware of it sometimes,
Right.
of what people play in your success, just to see how, because we never really knew about. We always knew that there was a strained relationship in the comedy series,
Mhm.
but again, they didn't really get into the Philly stuff in it as much.
Right.
Where well, correct me if I'm wrong. They never really got into it in in the original
No,
version, right?
it
But I
should.
knew that.
Yeah, they didn't really. It was just the original Aunt Vi was just she was just kind of like the stubborn, hard headed one, like the strong willed one.
Yeah,
Like nobody
exactly.
could really say much to. She's the oldest sister, and it's like, yeah, you can't really say too much to her, kind of thing, right?
Correct. So they really didn't draw out more than that.
Right.
While in this one, it's like, okay, we're seeing as to where either the jealousy or the resentment is coming from,
Right.
right? And this is real situations. You know what I mean? Like how many times where people have a strained relationship with siblings for whatever reason,
Right.
right? They obviously the love is still there, but it's strained. So yeah, I mean they're hitting some real topics, hitting some real topics where yeah they might be uber rich, but it's a lot of stuff that we can relate to.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. And I want to wrap this up by asking this question because I've had you on the last couple episodes, one for part one and then 1-2 for the slap heard around the world, right? Does Will Smith's slap threaten the future of this show?
Nah, I don't think so.
I hope not.
I don't
hope
think so.
not.
I don't think.
I
Honestly, I think, and I said it before. Even though I was under wrong pretenses, because remember when we did the slap thing, I was under the impression that Chris Rock apologized also.
Yeah,
Then we found out afterwards.
Yeah, after we
that,
finished
that,
putting it out, that no, he never said
that
anything.
exactly. But I honestly think this is going to do more damage to his personal life than his professional life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think Will's still going to command the same money. I don't necessarily think he's going to lose like blockbuster deals for this. Will isn't doing the Tyler Perry type movies where maybe with black people they'll hold on to this more. I think overall in any kind of big roles that he does, like he already signed to do what's that movie? Shit, where we're at the end of the world.
I Am Legend.
Yeah, I Am Legend.
I Am Legend
they've already signed the paper to do I Am Legend 2 with Michael B. Jordan, right?
Okay.
When that movie comes out and it makes its $1 billion, his career is gonna be fine. I think personally, when it comes to Will, whatever damage this has done, because it's really put a telescope to his personal life, his marriage. That's where I'm thinking that may not necessarily be able to withstand the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody is, everybody, like even me, I really didn't pay too much attention. Yeah, they have an open relationship, yeah, whatever. But he really looking like his personal life is put on blast, and that
it definitely focuses on light on it now.
Exactly.
Because like you, I really wasn't paying too much attention to it. Like a lot of the stuff, I was kind of finding out like within 24 hours of us even putting out that episode. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, like it's.
But now, do you see that clip I sent you where he talked about he planned 3 years for Jada's 40th birthday party?
Yep, and she kind of shot it down.
Kinda, Calvin. Yo, if I spent 3 years doing anything, and that is the reaction I get from my wife, dude, I'm done. No, for real. Are you fucking serious? And then for him to say afterwards, she's right. I'm like, yo, you're more far gone than I ever thought.
Yeah, it's not putting a great, it's not shining a great light on them. But it's funny, like
Oh,
like I think, sorry, this, I guess to answer my own question, like I think it kind of depends on the ratings of the show, because I mean the deal that they kind of had is a little unprecedented. They have a 2-season deal right off the bat. Usually most shows get a season, and then after that you kind of re-up for whatever
yeah,
future
but
seasons.
they're on Peacock, so
Right.
probably
Yeah, it's a streaming service, so
yeah, exactly.
right. But they got a 2-season deal. I don't think Will's gonna get canceled. To your point, but you are hearing some of his upcoming projects are already being put on the back burner. The movie Netflix Fast and Loose, which was I think the director basically quit on it, so they were trying to look for a director. Right, a week before the Oscars, he quit, and then with this happening, Netflix kind of shoved it to the back burner, and then Bad Boys 4, they already got the script for that. They're ready to start not filming, but they're putting the final touches on getting that ready. That apparently now is being put on hold. So like that, I don't, like
Oh
I said,
shit, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong then.
yeah, so it's like that cancel train is starting to, the wheels are starting to slowly turn. So like, to me, I'm wondering, like, if the show doesn't satisfy the ratings, for season 2, especially if this Will slap doesn't like blow over by then, I wonder if it gets slashed, just because, by association, or does he have to like take his name off the executive producer title? But he's producing the show, so I
But
don't know.
at the same
It gets
time,
tricky.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily, because we talked about this, like the ratings hasn't been strong for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it wasn't necessarily. It's not like we can say like, okay, the ratings was high and then it slipped because of the slap.
Right.
The ratings was never high in the first place, even though, I mean, I can't understand why. Unless it slips even further
Yeah,
because of the slap.
I mean, I don't think it's not tanking for sure, and I know that much. It's like
No, that's what I'm saying.
no,
I didn't think so.
no, it's. I think it's. I don't know what the raw numbers are, but looking on like Rotten Tomatoes and stuff, it's getting like 7 out of 10 on Rotten Tomatoes, that type of thing, right? So it's not. It's being rated decently for the first year, but I think some of it too is, as we discussed on part 1, it's like, I think some people expected it to be like a comedic version, like they weren't expecting it to be this type of version. So like, some people are like, we've seen some of the reviews where people are like, it's a little too serious, and it's like, come on, man, like that to me is not the excuse, right? Just embrace it for what the direction
It's
is.
funny. Had they not, I mean, obviously, I didn't think we caught when we smoking coke, but at the same time, we've seen the 2-year kind of run up with with the original trailer.
Right,
We knew this was going to be a drama.
right.
So anyone expecting that they were going to see Jazz being thrown out the window, with Will wearing his little propeller hat, I don't know what they were looking at for the last 2 years.
Yeah,
Because differently than any other kind of run up for a show, for a new show, so to speak, there's been a lot of press behind this. It's not even press, like social media behind it, because of how it came about.
yeah.
Like we've never seen a series come about from a social media trailer.
From a YouTube trailer, right?
You know what I mean? Or a YouTube trailer. So, people should have known it was taking more of a dark side.
Yeah, for sure. So that's why I'm kind of surprised when I'm hearing the reason why people aren't crazy about the show. And you're like, really? That's the reason why you're giving it a like, or at least some people are giving it a thumbs down. Like, I'm like, to me, like that from the trailer, like, I've said before, like from the trailer, it was intriguing from the jump. So the fact that they got this deal, I just hope, like, again, like, because I think Westbrook is Will's production team, I think. So
Yeah.
So if it is, it's like you just hope it doesn't get like chopped down by association. You know what I mean?
And Westbrook ain't getting no good PR right now neither.
I know, man. Jeez, oof. I know, but
they got eliminated yesterday also.
Yeah, they sure did. Which the Laker and LeBron fans are catching their L's right now with that, but. But with that said, like I said, as far as the future of the show, like I think the show definitely has something. The storylines and words going so far, like it's definitely intriguing. Because even before we did this, I had to watch the last episode one more time just to make sure I didn't miss anything. But I'm like, yo, like this is like a for our first show, first season. This is solid.
Yo,
Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not putting. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting it with Insecure or Billions or what I mean, that type of stuff. But like it's definitely a solid show that I'll be checking out. Like I'm definitely intrigued for season 2.
Definitely how they ended it. I actually rewind that last 5 minutes with him and Jazz on the cliff, just looking out to the city.
Yeah,
it was a great. It was intriguing ending to just show like almost like season 2 is almost like a reset.
Yeah.
Right? Where he's like, okay, I've seen what this city has, and it's like it could go any way, right? Because he's like, yo, I gotta really just pick a door that I want to go at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it leaves options, right? Does he? Well, obviously we know he's not going back to Philly, but like, how does he attack season? Like, how does he attack the next move? It's a good way to end the season. It's a good way to end the season. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't expecting that either. I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't really expecting that part of it. But like I said, I think there's something there. Like there's something, like the direction that they've gone. Like, I'm not mad at it. There's definitely something there, going forward. But let's wrap this up though. As always, appreciate you having coming on the show, and I definitely appreciate you for not punching me in my face like 15 years ago. What I was appreciating that your niece grew up to be a fine, beautiful, respectable woman.
Yeah, that's just still uncomfortable when you say that.
Oh man, that is hilarious. But I got nothing else to say. Let's wrap it up. I got nothing else to say.
Wrap it up, yo.
Thank you for tuning into the Ave Podcast and for supporting South Shore Ave as always. Spoiler alerts, they're now off. I'll be back with a new episode next Friday. Actually, with it being Good Friday next week, it may come out on Thursday instead. Either or, it'll be out on either one of those days. And for you NBA fans out there, and specifically Raptors fans, I'm going to be doing a post-game Raptors podcast episodes on my podcast feeds and also on Instagram Live, as long as they're in the playoffs. Hopefully that's going to be longer than the first round, and there's a pretty good chance that there will be, as well as doing NBA pods throughout the playoffs as well. There's also a new episode of My Story that'll be out on the end of the month on April 29th. And hit those 5 stars for me, as well as those like and favorite buttons. And check out my site, SouthShoreAve.com, for my catalog. Once again, that's SouthShoreAve.com for all of my past work. For Headley, this is Cal C. And you just tuned into the Ave Podcast on South Shore Ave Radio. All right, until next week. Peace. Have a great weekend.